Hey folks, I welcome you all to Scalar Academy's YouTube channel. So, a very important step in beating COVID-19 is to get vaccinated. And the government of India has launched this website called as CoWIN, where you can go ahead and register yourself for a vaccination slot. Now, in this particular session, we'll be using Python, and with the help of Python, we'll be scraping data from this particular website. So, we'll scrape data pertaining to vaccination details, the name of the center, the address of the center, and so on. So if you're excited on how to use Python to scrape data from the CoWIN website, let's get started. And before we actually start off with the session, I'd request you all to like this video and also subscribe to our channel. So folks, let's get to the code. So folks, let's get started on the code. So we'll have to start off by importing all of the required libraries. So I will import the request library. Now, if we'd have to scrape something from any website, well, we'd have to send a request to that website, isn't it? So here we have this CoWIN website, and from this website, I'd want to scrape the data which will tell me during which particular date how many vaccinations are available, and I can get that by either searching through the pin or searching through the district. So let's say if I given the pin code of, let's say 111001, and if I hit on search, so these are all of the slots available for these dates. Now what I'd want to do is I'd want to send a request to this cowin.gov.in website and get all of this information. So I'd want information with respect to, let's say, the center name, the center address, how many vaccinations are available, and so on. Now, since I know the address of it, what I want to do is I'd have to send this a request, and to send a request, we would need to import the library. So here I shall write down import, and the name of the library would be request. Now, after this, whatever data I extract from this website, I'd have to convert that into JSON form. So I would also need a library called as JSON. Let me just go ahead and import that. Here I shall write down import JSON. And since I'd want to know how many vaccination slots are available on which particular date, I would also be dealing with some date data. So let me also import date time library. So here I will write from date time import. I would need date time, and apart from this, I would also need something called as time delta. So I've imported all of the required libraries. Now what I'll do is I will go ahead and get today's date. So for that purpose, let me just go ahead and create a variable called as today. And inside this, I will use the same date time library. And here I shall write down date time dot today. Now let me print down today over here. And as you see, this is what I get. Now this just seems a bit ambiguous, doesn't it? So that is why I will use print statement, and inside the print statement again I will print out today. And this is what we get. So today's date is 2nd of June 2021, and this is the particular time right now. So now it's 4:48 p.m. and this is what I have. So all of these individual dates have been, I get this inside a tuple, and all of them are separated. So 2021 is the year, 6 is the month, 2 is the date, and also this is the hour, this is the minutes, this is the seconds. And this is how I get all of this information. Now what I'd want to do is I'd want to create certain variables which I'll be using in this program. So first, since from this website, I would want to extract all of this information through the help of pin code. So what I'm doing is I'm extracting all of this information if I type in a particular pin code. So let me just go ahead and create a new variable called as pin. And inside this, let me just give in the same pin code. So I'll actually give in 3 pin codes over here because I do want to see what are the vaccination slots or how many vaccination slots are available near these pin codes. So here I shall have 111001, 111002, and after this I'll also have 111003. So I've created this new list called as pin, and I've given 3 pin codes inside this. Now after this, I will go ahead and create another variable where I'd want to see information for the next 7 days. So here I'm just creating a variable called as numday, when I am passing in this value of 7 because I'd want all of this information about vaccinations for the next 7 days, or basically the 7 days starting from today. So I just create a variable for this. Now what I'd want to do is I'd want to generate these next 7 days. So how do I do that? Well, let me start off by creating a list and name that list as all dates, and for now I'll just keep it blank. So I'll write down all dates is equal to, I'll just give in parentheses, and I'm keeping this blank for now. Now after this, let me go ahead and start a for loop. So I'll write for I in, and I will have a range. So for I in range of num day, which is basically number of days, what I'd want to do is I'd want to append all of this information to my list. So I have this method called as append. So I'll write down all dates dot append, and inside this I will just have today plus time delta of I. Now what is happening over here is, so in today I have this particular date, which is 2nd June 2021, and time delta, I'm just creating a delta. So when I have time delta of I, so initially I value is 0. So today plus time delta 0. Then it will be today plus time delta 1, today plus time delta 2. And this is how I'm adding new 24 hours to my current day. Now let me just go ahead and execute this, and let me print out all dates for you guys and show you how it looks like. So as you see, I have generated dates starting from today going on till the next 7 days. So I have dates starting from 2nd June going on till 8th of June. And now I have all of my 8 dates ready, or all of my 7 dates ready. Let me just go ahead and send a request to my website. Also, before I do that, what I'd want to do is I'd want to convert this into a string format. So I want this in very simple terms. So again, I'll create another list and call that list as final dates. So this will be an empty list as of now. Final dates is equal to, I'll just give in parentheses. Going ahead, I'll have another for loop. Here I shall write down for I in, and this for loop will go through this all dates object. And now for I in all dates, what I'd want to do is, again, I'd want to use this new list, which is final dates. I will use the append method, final dates dot append, and I will be using this method called as strf time, where I'm basically converting my time objects into string. So I dot strf dot time. So this I variable, this basically iterates through all of these different dates. And here final dates dot append I dot strf time, and I want to convert this in the form of date, month, year. Here I shall write down %d, %m, and %y. %d, %m, %y, which would basically mean in the format of date, month, and year. Let me execute this and also print out final dates for you guys. And when I print out final dates, this is how I see the result. So 020621 is basically 2nd June year 21, 030621 is 3rd June 21, and this is how we progress till 8th of June 2021. Now we've also got the final dates in the form of strings. This is the time when we can go ahead and send a request to this CoWIN website. So let me start a while loop. Now I would want this while loop because I would want to be sending these requests continuously. So while true, while this is happening, what I'd want to do is I will have 2 for loops over here. So the first for loop is, so I'd want to search through all of the pin codes and all of the dates. So my first for loop will search through all of the pin codes. So here I shall write down for P in pin, and I will have an inner loop, an inner for loop, and here I shall write down for D in final dates, and After this, I shall create a string and I shall store that string in this URL. Now to actually create the string, I would need to go to this particular website. So here, this website which we see, this is the main Cowin website, and we have an API for this website as well. And you can get that API through over here. So as you see, we've got the URL for the server over here. And what I'd want is I'd want the availability of vaccination. So get vaccination sessions by district for 7 days. And here I have get vaccination sessions by PIN for 7 days. And since I want with respect to PIN, this is what I'd have to get. So let me just click on this. And if I just scroll this through, this is where you will see the URL. Now from this URL, let me just copy this entire URL till over here. Let me just copy this URL till over here, and I'm leaving out the pin code and date for now because those would be manually be feeded from my side through the Python program. Let me copy this. Let me paste it over here, and pin code. Let me just put in these curly braces for now, and I would also need to add date. So I'll have date is equal to, again I'll have curly braces. Now after this, I'll use the string formatter, and inside p code I will pass in this variable p, and inside date I will pass in this variable d. So this is how I have my URL ready. Let me just put in these braces properly. Let me put this at the end of this. So seems like this over here is proper. So URL, I've put in a brace over here, I've put in a quote over here. So seems like we've done this properly. Now after this, what I'd want to do is I'd want to send a request to the Cowin website. So to send a request, since I've imported this, let me use the same thing. So here I shall write down request.get, and inside this I will just pass in the URL which I've just created. And I'll get a result, and I'll store that result in a new object, and I'll call that object as result itself. Now let me show this out to you guys. So I'll have print result dot text, and let's just see what is the result that we get. Now when I print this out, this is the information which we get over here. Center, center ID, name, then we have which state is this. So this is the entire thing which we have got. Now let me go to this API page. So when I put in this API or the link of this API, I sort of get this sort of information. And as you see, all of this information is basically present as a JSON object. So what I have extracted from this website right now, this is HTML jargon which is present over here. Now I'd want to convert that into JSON. So this is what I have, and I'd have to convert this into JSON. Let me just go ahead and do that as well. So I have already imported the JSON library. Here I shall go ahead and write down result.json, and I will store this in a new object, and I shall call this as JSON result. Now after this, what I'd want to do is, since I have this, what I'll do is let me just put in a comment over here and print out this JSON object as well. Let me stop this. Let me save this session for now, and let me use print JSON result, and when I execute this, I get the same result. So this is the result which you actually see over here, and this is the final JSON object. Now from this JSON object, what I'd want to do is, since this seems like total jargon and I wouldn't be able to properly understand the data, I'd want to extract this properly in text format where I'll not have all of these different tags, and this will come in the form of a proper text format. So let me write down the code for that. So now that I have this, and since I also have the result properly, so let me just write down a if statement. So here if JSON result centers, which would basically mean if I have properly converted this into JSON object and if I'm getting the result or not, then if this is the case, what I'd want to do is I'd want to start a for loop. So here I shall write for I in, and here it will be JSON result centers. So I will go through all of the centers, and when I'm going through all of the centers, I would also need to go through all of the sessions. Again, let me just show this to you guys. So here I have centers. Centers is the key. These are all of the values. Similarly, I have this key called as sessions, and I have all of these values over here. And now inside this for loop, I'll have for I. So let me actually keep this. Let me change this. Let me write this as for center in JSON result centers. And here I'll have for session in center. And let me what I'll do is for session in center, inside this I'll just put in session over here. So now that I have both of my for loops ready, what I'd want to do is I'd want to print out all of the information. So I'll start off with a print statement, and first I'd want to print out the center name, or probably I'd want to print out the pin code first, and then I'll go ahead and print out today's date. So here I'll just write down pin code, and pin code will be present in P. Similarly, I'd also want to print out date, and date shall be present in D. Now that I have printed these two out, what I'd want to print is the center name. Let me write down center name over here. And center name I'll be getting from this JSON object. So here I shall write down center, and here you see this variable. This is what I'd have to pass in inside this. After this, I'd also want the center address. So here let me write the simple text center address. I'll put in a comma over here. Let me give in the JSON object. From this object, what I'd want to extract is the address. So let me add in the address as well. Now after this, I would want the number of vaccines available. So here I shall write number of vaccines, and this number of vaccines I'll be getting from the session object. So here you see from the sessions key, I have this value called as available capacity. And this is what I'd have to pass in over here. So I'll write down session. Inside this, I will write available capacity. And then going ahead, I'll have my next print statement. And inside this, let me see what else do I need over here. I'll also add the vaccine type. So let me add vaccine type here, and vaccine type also I'll be getting from the session object. Here I'll just write down vaccine, and let me stop this once, and then let me execute this again. Let me save this. Let me stop this, and now if let me remove this print statement, let me put in a hash over here, and now I shall get the proper result. So session, I have an error over here for, let me just see that properly. This has to be sessions. Let me change it to sessions. Let me also change it to sessions over here. And when I run this, I again have an error. So here this is sessions. So here for session in this has to be a simple one. Let me change this to session. Let me change this to session again. And now when I run this, I get the final result. Let me also put in a new line over here, print new line, so that I see a proper segregation between all of the results. Again, let me stop this once. Let me save this. Let me scroll this down and let me run this so that you guys can see this result properly. So from this CoWIN website, I have been able to properly extract all of the information. So as you see, this is the pin code, this is the date, which is 2nd of June 21. I've got the center name, center address, number of vaccines, vaccine type. So Today, let's say if I go to this particular center, which is LHMC CVC2, this is the address, number of vaccines are 0. So you see that at a lot of centers, the number of vaccines are 0. Now, what I'd want to do is I'd want only those centers where there is at least one vaccine available. So beneath this, I will add another if condition, and in if, let me put in a tab over here. Let me write in this if condition. And in the if condition, I'll just write down if session, and here it has to be available capacity. So if the available capacity is equal to 0, only then I would need all of this information. So let me put in these proper tabs over here. So if you're working with Python, it is extremely important that you give in the proper spacing, only then it shall work. So let me stop this, let me save this, and let me scroll up. Now let me run this. And if you see over here the number of vaccines, now you shall see that you will not have a 0 value. You are getting only those results of centers where you have at least one vaccine available. So folks, we have successfully used Python to extract data from this CoWIN website, where we'll have detailed information of how many vaccines are available across all of these centers. Thank you. Finding insights from raw data is quite an interesting task. With the help of data mining techniques, we can find patterns or outliers in the existing raw data. Not only this, we can also create beautiful graphs to better visualize the data. In this video, we shall be using data mining techniques to find insights from the IPL data. Now, before we go ahead with the demo, I'd request you guys to please like the video and subscribe to our channel. Also, if you have any suggestions or queries, please do put them up in the comment section. So let's get started. So folks, we have opened up our studio over here, and we'll be performing the different data mining operations with the help of our language on top of the IPL dataset. So what I want to do is, my first step would be to load the IPL dataset, and that I can find from this option. So here you will see this import dataset option. Let me just go ahead and click on this, and over here you will see from text base. Again, I'll go ahead and select this, and over here I have a file called as ipl.csv. Let me select this and click on open. And as you see, these are all of the columns and records which are present over here. And by default, the name over here is IPL. And here what I'd want to do is heading, I'll select yes. So over here you see the difference. So here by default we have the headings as V1, V2, V3. But what I'd want is, I'd want all of the values in the first row to become the headings, or basically the column names. So here what I'll do is, I'll select heading is yes, and all of the values which are present in the first row become the column names. And as you see, all of these values have been made bold. And all of these are obviously comma separated values because this is a .csv file. Let me just go ahead and click on import. So instead of using import dataset, let's say if you'd want to write a command for that in our language, the command would be read.csv. So if you'd want to load a CSV file into our studio or with the help of our language, you would have to use read.csv, and inside that you would have to give the entire path of the file. So now that I have loaded this dataset, I am having a glance at this dataset with the help of this view command. So when I use view of IPL, this is what I get. Let me just drag this down so that you guys can see this dataset properly. So these are all of the columns which are present in this particular dataset. So this ID, let's just leave it out for now. Going ahead, we have the city column, which basically means in which particular city this match was played in. After that, we have the exact date. So we have a match which was played on 18th of April 2008. And in this particular match, the player of the match, or basically the man of the match, was Brendan McCallum. And this match was played at M. Chinnaswamy Stadium. And was this a neutral venue? So you have zeros and 1 for this. So 0 means that this was not a neutral venue, and 1 means that this was a neutral venue. We have team 1 and team 2, which basically tell you the teams which were participating in this IPL match. So obviously this match was between Royal Challengers Bangalore and Kolkata Knight Riders. And in this match, it would seem that Royal Challengers Bangalore had won the toss and decided to field, and this match was won by Kolkata Knight Riders. So if you guys remember clearly, this was the first ever match in IPL's history, and in this match Brendan McCullum, I believe, had scored around 150 odd runs, and that is why he was the player of the match. And now here we have the result. So when you have runs, this would basically mean that the team batting first has won the match, and when you have wickets over here, this would mean that the team batting second has won the match. So here obviously team batting first was Kolkata Knight Riders, and they won by a margin of 140 runs, courtesy obviously Brendan McCullum. Then going ahead, we have this eliminator column which would tell you if this match was an eliminator or not. After that, we have Empire 1 and Empire 2, where we just have the names of the first empire and the second empire. So this is all about this IPL data set. Now let's go ahead and perform some basic data mining operations so that we can understand more about the underlying data. So what I'd want to do is, let's say from this city column, I'd want to see the number of times the match was played in each city. So for that particular purpose, I have a method called as table, and inside table, what I'll do is I will pass in the city column. So for that, I need to write IPL dollar and then I'll have city. Now when I hit enter, this is what I get. So here you would see that there were 29 matches played in Abu Dhabi. There were 12 matches played in Ahmedabad, 65 matches played in Bangalore, 15 matches played in Bengaluru. So here Bengaluru and Bangalore is basically the same city. Then you have 7 matches played in Cape Town and so on. Now let's say if I'd actually want to arrange this in descending order, so that I'd want to see in which particular city the most number of matches were played. So that is something which I can definitely do. So here I will write down the method sort. Now before that, let me actually go ahead and clear my screen. Now I'll write down sort, and inside this again I will use the table method. Inside the table method, I would just need to pass in the city column. So I'll have IPL dollar city. Now after this, I would have to sort this in descending order. So I will set decreasing is equal to T, which means decreasing is equal to true. Now let me run this and let's go ahead and look at the result. So if you see, when you see 816 entries, which would mean that this is a data set which would give information about 816 matches. So out of these 816 matches, 101 matches were played in Mumbai, 77 matches were played in Kolkata, 74 matches were played in Delhi, 65 matches in Bangalore, and 64 matches in Hyderabad. So now let's say if we combine Bengaluru with Bangalore, so that's 65 plus 15, so that would be 65, 75, 80. So probably Bengaluru would be in second position after Mumbai. Now I want to basically check the number of rows and columns in this particular data frame. So let's go ahead and do that. So if I want to find out the exact number of rows in any data frame, I can just go ahead and type in n row. And inside n row, I will pass in the name of the data frame. So here the name of the data frame is IPL, and that is exactly what I'm passing in over here. Now when I run this, you would see the result 816, which would mean that there are 816 records. And for this particular data set, this value 816 means that we have information about 816 matches that were played from actually 2008 going on till 2020. And now similarly, if I want to find the number of columns, I can just use ncol, and inside this I will pass in IPL again. Let me run this and you would see that there are 17 columns. Now on the other hand, let's say if you'd want to find this out directly, so here you have this global environment. So here you can directly see that there are 816 observations of 17 variables, where again 816 is representing the number of records and 17 is representing the number of columns. Now that this is clear, what I'd want to do is I'd want to check the basic structure of this data set. So to check the basic structure, I have this str command, which simply stands for structure. Inside this, again, I will pass in IPL. Let me go ahead and run this. Now here, as you see, on the left hand side, you will basically have the name of the particular column actually over here. So ID is the name of the column. Then you have the type of the column. So ID is integer. City is character. Date again is character. Player of the match is character, and so on. Now this just seems a bit chaotic. So that is why normally we use the view method. And with the help of view method, we get this really pretty looking table from where information can be easily found out. And now, let's say from this entire data frame, let's say if I would want to have a glance at the first 5 records, only the first 5 records. So what I'd want to do is I have a method called as head. Inside head, I will pass in IPL, and after this, I will write the value 5. So by default, the head method will give you 6 records. So let's say I'll have head of IPL, and I'll store this in a new variable, and I will call this as IPL top 5 records. Now let me have a glance at this new data frame. So I'll have view of IPL top 5 records, and if you look at this, you will see that I actually have the top 6 records, not the top 5 records. So by default, the head method gives you the top 6 records. So let's say if I want only the top 5 records, now what I'd want to do is here, I'll just put in comma and then I'll give in the value 5. Now let me run this. So as you see, in this data frame, suddenly from the 6 records, we have only 5 records in this data frame. Now the head method will give you the top records from the data frame, or basically the first 5 records or the first 6 records from your data frame. Similarly, if you'd want the last 6 records from your data frame, there's a method analogous to the head method, and that method is tail. So let's go ahead and use the tail method over here. I'll use tail, and inside this again, I will pass in IPL. Now, since I want the last 5 records, I'll pass in 5 over here, and let me go ahead and store this in IPL bottom 5 records. Now again, let me have a glance at this view of IPL bottom 5 records, and as you see here, if you look at the index values, they start from 812 and go till 816, which would basically indicate that these are the last 5 records from this particular data frame. So this sort of simple data analysis can be done from our data set. Now what I'd want to do is, let's say I have this player of match column over here. So I'd want to find out who has won the most number of player of match or most number of man of the match awards. So again, what I'd have to do is I can just go ahead and use the table method. Inside the table method, I will pass in IPL dollar. So IPL is the name of the data frame. With the help of the dollar symbol, I can select a particular column from this data frame. So I'll have IPL dollar player of match, and when I run this, this is the result which I get over here. So it would seem that Chandula has won man of the match once. Anil Kumble has won man of the match 3 times. Amit Mishra has won man of the match award 11 times. Then we have AB de Villiers, who has won man of the match 23 times. Then we have Adam Gilchrist, who has won man of the match award 7 times. Now again, what I'd want to do is I want to look at only the top players, and if I want to look at the top players, I can just arrange this in descending order. So before this, I will just add the sort method again. Let me copy this entire thing, paste it inside the sort method and delete this. After this, again, I will write decreasing is equal to true. Now, if I run this and if I scroll this to the top, you will see that I have AB de Villiers in the first position. because he has won the most number of Man of the Match awards. So AB de Villiers has won 23 Man of the Match awards. Closely following behind is his ex-RCB teammate Chris Gayle with 22 Man of the Match awards. Then we have the hitman Rohit Sharma with 18 Man of the Match awards. After that, we have the flamboyant Australian player David Warner with 17 Man of the Match awards. So this is, the different type of information that again we can extract or wrangle from the data which we already have. Now going ahead, what I want to do is, I want to similarly find out which umpire has been the first umpire for most number of matches. So here again, I'll just use table. I'll have IPL $umpire1 and I can just go ahead and use the sort method for this. I'll copy this entire thing and go ahead and paste this inside the sort method. After this, I'll just set decreasing is equal to true. Now let me scroll this up and here you can see that Dharmasena has been the first umpire for most number of matches. So he has been the first umpire for 78 matches. Then you have A.K. Chowdhury, who has been the first umpire in 56 matches. After that, you have close behind Asad Rauf, who has been the first umpire in 51 matches. Then you have Erasmus, then you have Alim Dar. Now, what I want to do is, I want to analyze how a team has been performing in a particular city. So let's say if I take the city of Bangalore, what I basically want to do is, from this entire data frame, I'd want to extract only those records where the city is equal to Bangalore. And for this purpose, I would require a library called as deployer, with the help of which I can perform data wrangling or data manipulation operations. So let me just go ahead and load up the library. So I'll write down library deployer. And now that I have loaded this, I can just go ahead and use a function which is present inside that. Now also, before you actually directly load the deployer method, you'd have to install it. So here you see this packages tab. Here you will have the install option. So whatever new package you'd want to install, you can just write in the name of it. So let's say if you'd want to install deployer, write in deployer. Similarly, if you'd want to install ggplot2, write in ggplot2. And when you click on install, the package would be automatically installed. So since I've already installed deployer into RStudio, I do not need to install it again. So I'll just go ahead and load it. Library of deployer. And now that I have loaded this library, I would have to extract only those records from this data frame where the city value is equal to Bangalore. So for this, I'll start off by writing the name of the data frame, which is IPL. Then I have something called as a pipe operator. So normally, let's say whenever you are constructing something, you would have these connection pipes, isn't it? With the help of which you connect different things together. So you can consider this pipe operator to be the same sort of thing. So with the help of this pipe operator, so here pipe operator is basically you have percent symbol, then you have the greater than sign, and then you have the percent symbol again. So this entire thing is your pipe operator, and this helps you to connect different objects together. So when I say different objects, you can basically be connecting one function with another function, or one function with another data frame or a list or a vector and so on. So here I have written IPL, then I've used the pipe operator, and I am using the filter method. And this filter method is part of the deployer package. So if you haven't loaded your deployer library, you will not be able to work with this filter package. So I've written IPL filter, and I'd want to filter out all of those records where the city value is equal to Bangalore. Now let me go ahead and store this in a new object, and I'll call that object as Bangalore. Now I'll just use the view method, view of Bangalore, and if you look at the city column over here, you will see that all of the values in this are equal to Bangalore. Now I don't want to see who has won the most number of player of matches awards in Bangalore city. So I can just go ahead and use the table method over here, and I'll write down, so the name of the data frame is Bangalore, so I'll have Bangalore $player of match. And here, if I look at all of these values, it seems that it's pretty clear we have our universe boss, Chris Gale, with the most number of Man of the Match awards. So Chris Gale is leading with 9 Man of the Match awards in Bangalore. Then you have Virat Kohli, who has got 6 Man of the Match awards in Bangalore. So after that, it's again, you have AB de Villiers, who has again won 6 Man of the Match awards. So this is quite interesting, isn't it? Similarly, let's say if I do want to extract all of those records where the city is equal to Chennai. So what I'll do is I'll write down IPL and I'll use the pipe operator. I'll give in the filter symbol and I'll write down city is equal to Chennai, and I'll just go ahead and store this in a new object, and I'll call that new object to be Chennai. So view of Chennai, and let's see what do we get. So here we have 57 entries, which would mean that we have 57 matches that were played in Chennai. Again, I don't want to see who has won the most number of Man of the Match awards in Chennai. So let me actually start off by using the sort method itself. Inside this, I'll use the table method. The name of the data frame this time is Chennai, and I would want to select the player of the match column. Now after this, since I'm using the sort method, I am actually going to sort this. I would actually have to keep it over here. Let me write this down properly. Decreasing is equal to true. And here you have Michael Hussey, who has won 5 Man of the Match awards, and you also have MS Dhoni, who has won 5 Man of the Match awards in Chennai. Then close behind you have Murli Vijay and Raina with 4 Man of the Match awards each. Then you have McCallum and Duplessis with 2 Man of the Match awards. So again, interesting information from this data frame. Now, let's say if I do want to extract all of those records where the city is either Chennai, Bangalore, Delhi or Mumbai. So this is also something which can be done over here. So I'll write down IPL, I'll use the pipe operator, then I'll use the filter method. Inside this, I will give multiple conditions, and this is how it can be done. So first condition is city is equal to Bangalore. After that, I'll use the OR operator. So city can either be Bangalore or city can be equal to Delhi, or let me also give in city can be equal to Mumbai, and let me give in the OR operator again, and this time let's say I'll give the city to be equal to, let's select Kolkata. Let me write down Kolkata over here, and what I'll do is I'll store this in a new object. I'll call it as IPL for cities. Let me have a glance at this view of IPL for cities. And here we've got Bangalore, Delhi, Mumbai and Kolkata. And now, out of this, what I do want to do is, out of these 4 cities, I do want to see in which city were the most number of matches played. So if I want to visualize something, I have a library called as ggplot2. So again, I'd have to load the library. So I'll have library ggplot2. So now that I have loaded this, let me go ahead and make a bar plot for the same. So I'll write down ggplot of data is basically this IPL 4 cities data frame which I've just created. After that, I'll write down aesthetic, on what I'll do is I'm basically mapping a column onto the x-axis. So here I'll write down x is equal to city because I just want to understand the distribution of the city column. So data is equal to IPL 4 cities, x is equal to city. After this, I'll just go ahead and use geom bar. And inside geom bar, what I'd want is I'll give stat is equal to count, because I would want the frequency of these categorical values. Now let me go ahead and run this. So this is how this bar plot comes out. So out of Bangalore, Delhi, Kolkata and Mumbai, it would seem that the most number of matches were played in Mumbai. Let me also zoom this over here for you guys. So out of these 4 cities, the least number of matches, it seems, were played in Bangalore, and the maximum number of matches were played in Mumbai. Now, the problem with this plot is this seems a bit bland. So let me go ahead and add some color onto this. So here, let's say I'll add an attribute called as fill, and let me give in a color. So I'll give in this color called as pale green 4, and as you see, I've been able to successfully add color to this plot. So this is a fill color. Now similarly, we have a boundary color. That is also something which I can go ahead and add. So I'll have an attribute called as call, and here let me pass in green and run this. And now if you look at this closely, you would see that I have also added a boundary color. So this fill color is pale green 4, and the boundary color which you see, that is light green or parrot green. Now what I'd want to do is I'd want to give a separate color for each of these different cities. So that also something which we can do. So let me just tweak this method properly for that. So again, I'll have ggplot data. Inside this, I will have IPL for cities. Let me select this properly. Aesthetic. And here onto the x-axis, I will map city. And now I will use this fill as an aesthetic and not really as an attribute, which would mean that I am mapping the city column onto fill aesthetic. So when I map the city column onto the fill aesthetic, so each of these bars which you see will have a different fill color. After this, I would need to use the geom bar method, and here rest would be the same. I'll have stat is equal to count. Now let me run this, and as you guys see over here, I have 4 bars, and all of these 4 bars have different colors. So this, let's call this pink color. I am pretty bad with colors, so let's just call this pink. So this pink colored bar would represent Bangalore. Then we have this green color which would represent Delhi. Then we have this blue color which would represent Kolkata. Let's call this purple, I guess, if I'm not wrong. This bar would represent the matches which were played in Mumbai. So seems like we've done enough data mining with the help of our language. Now let's open up Jupyter Notebook and also perform some data mining operations with the help of Python. So folks, I've opened up Jupyter Notebook over here. Again, my first step would be to load the required libraries and also to load the file. Now, since this is a CSV file, to work with CSV files in Python, I would need a library called as pandas. And the same library would also help me to perform some basic data manipulation, data wrangling operations. So here, let me just go ahead and import the pandas library. Now, after I import pandas, what I want to do is I'll go ahead and I'll actually import this as PD. So import pandas as PD. Now I'd want to load a CSV file. So here I shall write down pd.read_CSV, and inside this I need to give in the name of the file, which is ipl.csv. And let me just go ahead and store this in a new object, and I'll call that new object as IPL. So now that I have loaded this object, let me have a glance at the first few records of this IPL data frame. So as we had the head method in our language, similarly we also have the head method in Python language. So here IPL.head. Now when I run this, I have the first 5 records of this entire data frame. So here you would have to understand the difference between the head method in Python and the head method in our language. So when we use the head method in our language, by default it gave us the first 6 records. But when we are working with the head method in Python language, this will give us by default first 5 records. So now Here what I'd want to do is, let's say instead of 5 records, if I'd want 10 records, let me just put in 10. And here, as you see, I have the first 10 records from this data frame. So this is the head method. Now let's say if I'd want to find out the number of rows and columns which are present over here. So for that purpose, let me write in IPL dot shape and let me run this. Let me actually remove these braces from over here. Now we get the result 816, 17, which means that there are 816 records and 17 columns. And obviously these 816 records represent the number of matches played in this data frame. Now, from this entire data frame, what I'd want to do is, again, let's say I'd want to find out the frequency of this city column, which would mean that I'd want to see, or I'd want to find out the number of matches played across different cities. So let's see how can we do that using the Python language. So here, let me just go ahead and write down. I'd have to write down the name of the data frame first. So the name of the data frame is obviously IPL. Then I'll give in the parenthesis, and inside parenthesis, let me give in single quotes, and inside single quotes, let me give in the name of the column. So the name of the column is city. Now, after this, I have a method called as value counts. So I'll write down dot value counts, and when I run this, this is the result which I get. So, and also if you look at the result properly, you would see that the result is already sorted in descending order. And we see that there were 101 matches played in Mumbai, 77 matches played in Kolkata, 74 matches in Delhi, 65 matches in Bangalore, and 64 matches in Hyderabad. Now, what I'd want to do is, let's say I'll go a bit ahead, and similarly I'd want to find out the frequency for player of the match column. So here, let me write down IPL, and inside this, let me use the name of the column, which would be player of the match. Again, I will use the value counts method. Let me write this down properly. And when I execute this, you will see that most number of man of the match awards are won by AB de Villiers. Now, also when I say most number of man of the match awards, you'd have to understand that this date, it starts from 2008 and goes till 2020. So you have AB de Villiers with 23 man of the match awards, then Chris Gayle with 22, Rohit Sharma with 18, Dhoni with 17, and Warner with 17. And now, going ahead, I would want to make a bar plot for, let's say, the top 5 players with most number of man of the match awards. So for this purpose, I would need a visualization library. So let me just go ahead and import the libraries. So I'll write down from matplotlib import pyplot as plt. So matplotlib is a visualization library. And from this, we have a submodule called as pyplot, and we are giving that pyplot an alias of plt. Now, with the help of this pyplot, we can go ahead and create a bar plot. Now, I'll write down plt.bar, and inside this, actually, before I go ahead and make this bar plot, let me show you the keys and values from this particular thing. So here we have IPL player of the match dot value counts, and here we have the names of the players as well as the number of times they won the man of the match awards. So let's say from this thing, if I want only the names of the players, I can just put in the keys method. Now when I run this, you will see that IPL player of match dot value counts dot keys gives me only the names of the players over here. Now let's say instead of keys, if I have values over here, I'll actually remove values. I'll not require it. If I have, let's say, I'll remove the braces over there. So here 23, 22, 18, 17, these are the values. Now when I remove this and run this, I have the names and values as well. So when we are creating a bar plot, and obviously a bar plot is to understand the distribution of a categorical column. So what we do when we are building a bar plot is we will map these categorical values or the names of the players onto the x-axis, and the values over here, which would mean the number of times they won the man of the match award onto the y-axis. So let me go ahead and do that. I'll have plt.bar, and the value which I given as the first parameter would go onto the x-axis, and the value which I given onto the second parameter will go onto the y-axis. So first parameter, since it has to go onto the x-axis, I need to give in the names of the players. So where will I get the names of the players from? Let me copy this. Let me paste it over here. After that, I need to use the keys method. And I'd want to make this bar plot for only the top 5 players. So inside parenthesis, I'll have 0 to 5. Similarly, let me copy paste this again over here. Now what I'd want is, I would want to have a glance at only the first 5 values. Again, I'll give in parenthesis over here. I'll write down a 0:5. Now I'll go ahead and execute this, and as you see, most number of man of the match awards: AB de Villiers, Chris Gayle, Rohit Sharma, MS Dhoni and David Warner. Now again, if I want to give different colors to all of these bars, that is also something which can be done. So here, let me select this, and what I shall do is, I have this parameter called as color, and here let me give in 5 different colors. So we have AB de Villiers, let's give him a red color because he plays for RCB. Then we have Chris Gayle, let's give him pink color because now he plays for Punjab. Then we have Rohit Sharma, let's give him blue color because he plays for Mumbai. Then we have Dhoni, who plays for Chennai, and then we have Warner, who plays for Hyderabad. So let me give him the orange color over here. Now, if I run this, you will see that I have different colors for all of these different bars. So this red colored bar indicates that the player is AB de Villiers, pink colored bar indicates that the player is Chris Gayle, and so on. So folks, we've done basic data mining with the help of R language as well as Python language on top of the IPL dataset. So if you have found this session informative, please do like the video and also do subscribe to our channel. Hey guys, I welcome you all to Scalar Academy's YouTube channel. So Python is an absolutely amazing language, and with the help of Python, we can do a lot of things. So in Python, we have this library called as tkinter, and with the help of tkinter, we can create GUI based applications or graphical user interface applications. So in this particular session, we are going to use tkinter to create a GUI based clock. Now, before we head on to the coding part, I request you guys to subscribe to our channel and also hit the bell icon so that you do not miss out on any of the notifications. So let's get started with the code. For this, we would need a library called as tkinter, and with the help of tkinter, we can work with GUI or graphical user interface objects. Now let me go ahead and import the required libraries. I'll write over here from tkinter import start, which would basically mean that from this library called as tkinter, I am importing all of the files. And after this, I would also require the time library because what we are actually creating is a clock. And from the time library, I want to represent the time in a string format. So here I shall write from time import. So I have something called as strf time, which would mean that I am representing time in string format. Now that I've created this, I'd have to create a window. So whenever we are working with tkinter, since we are creating GUI objects, we would have to create a window for the same. So here, let me just go ahead and create a window. I'll write down window is equal to tk. And here you'd have to keep in mind that T is capital, K is small. So I'm basically creating a tkinter object or a tkinter window, and I'm storing that in this new object called as window. Now that I have created this, let me also add a title for this window. So I'll write down window.title, and inside this, let me just give in my clock. So now that I have created this, what I can do is add a label onto this window, and that label would help me to show the time. So I'll write down label is equal to label. Now this what you see is the widget. So I'm creating a widget label which I can then go ahead and add onto my window. Now inside this label, since this is a part of window, this is what I'll give as the first parameter. So I'm creating a widget which is basically a label, and that would be part of my window. And I will give a color for the foreground and background. So foreground is basically the text color which will come over here. So I'll write down foreground, and let me just set the foreground color to be equal to blue. Then I'll go ahead and add a background color over here. So let me write background, and I'll set the background color to be equal to orange. So now that this is done, what I'd have to do is I'd have to pack this label onto my widget. So we have a layout manager called as pack, and with the help of that, we are basically packing this or adding this onto my window. So here I shall write label dot pack. Now what I've done is I've created a label and I've also packed this into my window. Now after this, what I'd have to do is I'd have to create a method which would help me to create this clock. So I'll write down def with the help of which I can create a method, and I'll call this method as clock. Now after this, what I'll have to do is I've imported something called as strf time, and I'll use the same thing over here. So I'll write string is equal to strf time, and I'd want the time in this particular format. So here I'll have %h, then I'll have %m, then I'll have %s, which is basically the format of hour, minute, second. Let me add a colon after this as well. So I need a colon after minute. Then I'd want this in the form of AM and PM. So I'll just write down %p. So I've created the string, but then again, I'd have to add the string into my label. So as of now, the label which I've created has only a foreground color and a background color, but no text is present. So here I shall write down label, and I will add this argument called as text, and whatever string I get from this time, that string is what I'll be adding as text onto my label. Then going ahead, I'd need to set a font. So I'll give the font type as, let's say, Arial. Now that this is set, what I can do is, since I'd have to update this text, so here I'll have label dot after, and I'd want to update this text after every 1000 milliseconds, which would basically mean I am updating this after every second. And the text is coming from clock. So here what we are doing is basically updating this, and the same we are putting up in the label. Now I have created this. We've got an error over here. So I'd have to give in an equal to symbol. Now let me run this again over here. Now going ahead, since everything is set, what I can do is just go ahead and invoke or call this clock method, and also I'd have to start the main loop of my window. So here I'll write down window.main loop, and when I write down window.main loop, with the help of this, I will be able to run my main program. So let me execute this again, and let me also execute this. So we've again got an error. We have label object is not callable. So here I would have to write down label.configure, because I've just created this label widget, and here I'm configuring this. Now let me run this again. And let me run this. You see this star symbol, which would basically mean we are running this or executing this program. Now let me show you guys how this looks. So folks, this what you see over here is our clock. We have successfully created this. Now let me expand this. And as you see, I've given the title my clock. And as you see, this is also incrementing every second. So we had given the foreground color to be equal to blue and the background color to be equal to orange. And this is what we see over here. So if I just go back, you see that the foreground color is blue and the background color is orange, and that is what we have. Now let's say if I want to change this color of the background, or maybe even increase the font size, that is something which I can do. So what I'll do is I will first restart and clear all of the outputs. Now that all of the outputs have been cleared, I can just go ahead and change the background color over here. So let's say instead of orange, if I would want a green color, I'll change that. And over here inside font, You see this is Arial. I'll just change the font size. Let me given the font size to be equal to 125. Now let me run all of these lines of code from the beginning. So here I'll also run this. Let me just execute this, and this is the final line. Let me hit enter. Now let me see. So as you see over here, I've changed this background color, which is green, and also I have increased the font size of time. Now again, let me zoom this over here. You see that this is of background color is of white. Now let's say if I would want to change the background color of the window, that is also something which I can do. So let me go ahead and do that. So here again, I will restart and clear all of the output. Here in this particular cell, what I'll do is I'll write down window dot. I will again use configure method over here. Before that, I'd have to run these three cells. And here, let me just write down window dot configure. And inside this, I would need to give a background color. So let's say if I would want to change the background color to be equal to green, I'll just keep it as green. Now let me run all of these cells over here and let's get the result. Let me close this for now and let me zoom this. So as you see, initially the background color was white. I have changed this to green, and that is why you have the entire thing to be green. So folks, this brings us to the end of this class where we have learned how to create a clock using tkinter. And if you have found this session to be informative, please do like this video and do also subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much, and let's meet up in the next one.
Hello everyone, my name is Vinayak Jaligede. I'm my third year BTech. So this is my submission for the videothon. So what I thought was initially, I thought I'll make a Python tutorial, as you can see here. But then I just realized that there are tons of tutorials out there. So I thought, why not go with NumPy? But then the thing I realized about NumPy was that it has very little content, and I thought you can just find that online as well. So what I thought to do was basically to do a small automation project using Python, so that you can kind of learn Python how to do it and apply a little bit of logic there. So what I plan to do is basically to do a attendance calculator. The reason why I chose this is because I see a lot of students and a lot of my friends struggle calculating their attendance percentages. Like obviously you'll get your attendance percentage in your respective college websites, but the thing what is unique about this is basically it calculates how many classes you can miss if you have more percentage, and if you have less percentage, and it calculates how many classes you require to get that minimum percentage. So that is the thing which this calculator does. And the other thing which I find people struggling with is basically calculating their CGPA or SGPA. I don't know why, but okay, they do find it hard. But yeah, you can find a lot of resources online to calculate their CGPA or SGPA according to their college standards. So, okay, let's get into it. This attendance calculator. So I've done it using a single function, right? And I've used math here because I'll be using a ceil function here. So I'll come to that once we get into it. So this attendance function basically takes in the total number of hours conducted, the number of classes conducted here. Basically, okay, I'll just probably show you this. Yeah. So this is an example of how my college timetable would well, like my attendance thing would be there. They'll just give us the hours conducted and absent hours, and they'll give us a attendance percentage. So what I did here was, so I took those two values as input, which is for example 36. Let's say take an example which is here 36 and 4 hours absent, right? And so taking that, so what I've done here is so let's plug in the values and let's see what happens. So once I run this, it says you should have a minimum attendance percentage of 75. Yes, right. You can different colleges have different attendance percentage, but here in my case it is 75%. So here I've attended 32 hours, which is basically the number of total hours subtracting the missed hours. So 32 hours out of 36, and my current percentage is 88. So I can miss 5 classes and I can go back to sleep or do whatever I was continue doing. So this is the details which I'm going to get. So, and if I change values, such as, like, let's assume I've conducted like 55 classes and I've missed 16 of them, 16 classes, right? So yeah, so my attendance percentage is 70%. Here you can see the number hours attended is 39 out of 55, and my attendance percentage is 70. And here I need to attend 9 classes to get my percentage up to 75%. Right. So this is the thing which the calculator does. So we can just dive into the function and see how it's basically done. Right, so I've taken two inputs, which is total hours and missed hours, as you can see. So I've just printed the minimum percentage, and uh, here attended hours will be basically the total hours conducted minus the missed hours. So those are the classes which you have attended, right? And the current percentage. So the current attendance percentage would be the number of classes you have attended divided by the total hours. I can give you an example here, which is, yeah, the attendance percentage is equal to classes attended divided by total classes into 100. That will give us the uh, attendance percentage, right? And yeah, so I've taken three test cases here wherein my percentage is greater than 75. So once when it is greater than 75, I can have how many classes I can miss to maintain that 75 percentage, right? So okay, let's take a case wherein the attendance percentage is greater than 75, which is basically, let's assume it is 80% or something. So that is the case where you'll have to calculate the number of classes where you can miss, right? So here I've given an if condition where it is greater than 75, and after that it enters the if condition. Here I'm calculating 75 percentage of total hours. So our total hours was 36, right? So I'm calculating the 75 percentage of 36 hours, because I need the amount to be in the 75 percentage sector. I cannot go below that. I have to be above that, right? So that is why I'm calculating this, and here I'm calculating the seal value. Obviously I'll be getting a decimal value, so I'm calculating seal value because the value is greater there. Let's assume if it is 4.6. So if I'm getting 4.6 or 4.6, I should go make it to go 5, so that once we subtract here in the total attended hours, so that we can get the accurate value of minimum classes required. If we do a floor of this, we'll get a lesser value, and then minimum classes will be incorrect, giving us a greater value there. So that is the reason I've taken it as C. And here this is basically just to print the minimum classes required. So taking an example here, 36. So as I showed you here, so 88 is the percentage which is greater than 75, and I can miss 5 classes until I reach a attendance percentage of 75. Right, and let's if the attendance percentage is 75, then just you need to go to class. You can't miss any other classes now from now onwards, right? And yeah, this is an interesting case wherein if my attendance is less than 75, so we can do this in two ways. I'll first tell you the simplest way. Okay, so in this, basically, let's assume you have a attendance percentage of 70, right? So you'll keep attending classes. The total number of classes you attend will be increasing, but the classes which you have already missed will be constant, right? So here, what you basically do is, here there's a multiplication. You can do it in two ways, as I said. One is in the ratio proportion method, and the other one is in the percentage method, which is using the formula. So I felt this is easier. So this is the one which I'll be using it for in the code. Here you will have to calculate a factor. So my minimum percentage is 75, right? So if I need 75 for, let's assume I have 100 classes conducted, and obviously my minimum percentage is 75. So I can miss 25 classes for that matter, right? So if I attend 75 classes, then I'll get a minimum percentage of 75. And if I miss 25 or anything more than that, so to cover up that, obviously I have to attend more classes. So the reason why it is here, there's something called as a factor, right? The factor is basically the amount where you can divide it into equal parts of attending, and you can miss, right? So it will be 100 divided by 25 is equal to 4. Let's assume if your minimum percent attendance percentage is 85, then it will be 100 divided by 15, because 15 is the number of classes which you can miss. So that will be the factor here. So missed hours into factor, that will give us basically how many number of classes you can miss in total, right? And the classes which is required is total missed minus total hours, because total missed value will be greater. That is why you have a lower percentage less than 75, right? So that is the reason, total missed minus total hours. So yeah, that and then you just print the final value. Let's assume here I'm giving 10 hours I've missed, and there are 36 hours conducted. So since this value is less than 75, I'll have to attend 4 classes more to get to 75 percentage. Here, if I attend one class, so if I'm attending a class, obviously this will go to 36, and the number of classes missed will be constant, right? And here my percentage slowly increases because the number of classes is increasing, but not your missed classes. So here you will have to attend 4 classes to miss one class later on, right? There's another way which I can explain. There's another method, logic for this to do it here. So we can do it using a formula here. Attendance basically is the simple formula. Calculating the attendance percentage is equal to classes attended divided by total number of classes into 100. Okay, so that is the simple attendance formula, right? So you need 75%. So given is basically total number of classes is 55, and I've missed 16 classes. So here I'm assuming x to be let x be the number of extra classes needed to attend, and classes attended is equal to, so total number of classes you have attended until now, so is 55 minus missed classes, basically conducted minus missed classes, plus x. X is the number of classes which are required to get you to 75 percentage, right? And total classes will be 55 plus the classes which you have attended to get to 75, right? So putting all the values in the formula, basically classes attended is this 55 minus this 55 minus 16 plus x divided by 55 plus x into 100 is equal to 75 percentage, because that is the value which you needed to be in the safe zone, right? So on calculating x, here you will be getting 9 as the answer. So you can use this formula. So you'll be almost getting the same answer. So as I said, so it was 55, and what was the value? 16, right? 16 classes you have missed. So here it's basically the same thing. So I've got an attendance percentage of 70.91, and here I need to attend 9 more classes to make my attendance percentage to 75. So I would like to thank you for watching this video, and hopefully you can change the score to your minimum percentage required. So what I tried to do was, since I didn't want to manually input all these values, so I wanted to use a web crawler and take the data from the table given here, from the data given here in from my college website. But I think that will require a lot more things to be done, like a web crawler and many other things. So for that, for this part, you can try this out, and then you can let me know.
Hello, everyone. So, in today's session, we shall work with a COVID 19 data set. So, this particular data set I've got from Kaggle. So, for all of you data science enthusiasts, there is a site called as Kaggle, which is sort of a data science repository. So, on Kaggle, you'll find multiple data sets with respect to data science. Over there, you also have a huge community for data science, and also you have multiple contests over there. So I've just taken one such data set from that particular website. Now, after taking that data set, what I'd want to do is I'd want to do basic exploratory data analysis on top of that data set. And I shall be using two languages for that. I shall be using Python as well as R. Since Python and R, both of them are widely used in the field of data science, I shall be using both of them. So, on that note, what I'll do is I will share my screen and let me start off with the coding side of things. So, hopefully, you can see the Jupyter notebook as well. Aritra Nandi is saying no audio. Seems like I can hear it. So, Aritra, probably you have to check your system once again. So, please check at your end. There might be an issue at your end. So, I've opened up Jupyter Notebook over here, and what I'd want to do is the first task for me to load the data set. And since this is a CSV file, to load any CSV file, I would require the Pandas library. And Pandas is a library which is mostly used for data wrangling and data manipulation. So let me just go ahead and import that library. So here I shall write down import pandas as PD. And now that I have imported this pandas library, let me just go ahead and load the file. I shall write down pd.read underscore CSV, and inside this I shall give in the name of the file. So I have a file called as COVID-19, or let me just verify the name of the file. So it is actually covidindia.csv. So I have a file called as covidindia.csv, and with the help of pd.read underscore CSV, I am loading this, and I shall store this in a new object, and I shall call that object as COVID. So now that I've created this object, let me just go ahead and have a glance at the first few records of this. So what I shall do is I shall write down COVID.head, and these are the few records which are present in this particular data frame. So we've got the date column. So here, as you see in Kerala, as of 30th January 2020, there was one confirmed case. So you have all of these different columns over here. The date when these things happened, whether it's a confirmed case, whether that person was cured of COVID, or whether that person deceased because of because of this particular virus. Then you have which particular state and how many cases. You have confirmed Indian national, you have confirmed foreign national. So these are all the different columns which are present. Now, out of these, I wouldn't want all of these columns. So I'll just take a subset of this entire data frame. So if I'd want a subset of this entire data frame, what I shall do is I shall again write down COVID. Then I shall give in two parentheses, which is basically meaning that I shall take a subset of data frame from this original data frame. And then I shall list down all of the columns which I would require from this main data frame. So I would definitely need the date column. So I shall give in single quotes. Inside that, I shall give in date. Then after that, I shall also need the state union territory column. So here I shall write state slash union. Let me write this down properly. State slash union territory. And also here you'd have to keep in mind that you're writing this spelling properly. And after these two, I shall ignore confirmed Indian national, I shall ignore confirmed foreign national, and I shall take the rest of the three columns. So I have cured, deaths, and confirmed. So here I shall write cured. Then going ahead, I shall take the next column, which is deaths, and then finally I shall take a column called as confirmed. Then I shall go ahead and store this in the same object, and also call this as COVID. So what I'm basically doing is from this original data frame or main data frame, I am taking a subset of columns and I am storing back into the original data set. So I've executed this command. Now again, let me write down COVID.head and let me see the resultant data set. And as you see from this main data frame, I've been able to extract only the date column, state union territory column, the cured column, deaths column, and confirmed column. So hopefully this is clear for all of you folks. So Nishad is asking, is that cumulative or per day? So this is cumulative. So all of these which you see, this is cumulative. So as of 30th Jan 2020, there was one confirmed case. As of 1st Jan 2020, there's actually 1st February 2020, Kerala had 2 confirmed cases. As of 3rd February 2020, Kerala had 3 confirmed cases. So all of these are cumulative values over here. Now that I've taken this subset over here, what I'd want to do is, I'd want to, since all of these have, these are in title case, what I'd want to do is I'd want to convert the names of the columns into small case. And also this is a, this column name seems really lengthy. So I just want to cut it down. I'd want to shorten it and just keep it as state. So let me go ahead and rename all of the columns which are present over here. So for that purpose, I shall write, first I again need to give in the name of the data frame, which is COVID. And I have this method called as rename. And here I shall have a parameter called as column. So I'll set columns is equal to, and I'll take in a dictionary. And inside this dictionary, so if you have worked with Python before, you shall know that a dictionary has key value pairs. And in this particular key value pair, what I shall do is I will give in the original name of the column as the key and the new name of the column as the value. So first I have this column called as date, and here you see that D is capital. I do want to change that to small d. So I shall write down date. Similarly, I have the next column, which is this. So let me copy this entire thing and let me paste it out over here. After this, what I'd want to do is I'd want to change this to just state. Going ahead, I have the next column, which is cured. So here C is capital. And what I'd want to do is I'd want to change that to small. I shall write it as cured. And then I have the next column, which is deaths. So again, over here, D is capital. And I'd want to convert that into small. So here I shall write down deaths. And then I have one final column, which is confirmed, which would tell me the number of confirmed cases. So here I shall write down confirmed. And again, let me make it smaller. So here I've changed C to be small. So now that I've done this entire thing, I will again go back and store this in the same COVID data set. Now I've executed this and let me run COVID.head. And as you see, I've been able to successfully rename these columns. So initially, all of these columns were in title case or capital case. I've converted them into small cases. And also the name of this particular column, it was state/union territory. I've just cut it down. I've made it state. And again, hopefully this is clear for all of you folks. Nishad says cool. That's great. And also, folks, if you have any doubts, any queries, any suggestions, please keep putting them up in the chat window. I shall parallelly go through the chat and see if there are any questions. I shall take them up as well. And I want this session to be quite interactive. So now that I have made the necessary changes in this particular data set, what I want to do is, so here, let me show you so right now when I use this head method, you can see the first 5 records in this. Similarly, if I want to look only at the bottom 5 records, I have a method called as tail. So let me just write down COVID.tail over here. And as you see, these are the last few records which are present in this data frame. And if you look at these index values, so here, when you use the head method, you see that you have the record starting from index number 0 going on till index number 4. Similarly, when I use this tail method over here, I have the record starting from index number 16,377 going on till 16,381. And this would basically mean that this data frame has 16,382 records. I'm saying 382 records because the first index value starts from 0. And just to confirm that, let me go ahead and write down COVID.shape, which shall tell me the number of columns and number of records in this data frame. So when I use COVID.shape, you shall see that there are 16,382 records and 5 columns in this particular data frame. So this is also clear. Now, what I do want to do is, I do want to extract the latest cases. So this particular data frame has details till 24th June 2021. Now, today is 29th June 2021. So we've got the latest cases till 5 days back, isn't it? So this is the most updated data set which I was able to find on Kaggle. And I've got all of the latest cases till 24th June 2021, which is just 5 days back. So what I'd want to do is I'd want to extract all of the records from this data frame where date is equal to 24 June 2021, and I'd want to analyze that particular set properly. So here, let me just go ahead and write down, I'll write COVID. Inside this, again, I'll write COVID. So what I'm doing is I'm writing down the name of the data frame. And from this COVID data frame, I'd want to extract all the records where the value of date is equal to this. So let me write in the name of the column. So the name of the column is date, and the date value needs to be equal to 2021-06-24. Let me copy this and I shall paste it over here. And now that I have this, I shall go ahead and store this in a new object, and I shall call that as latest cases. Now I'll just show you this latest cases object. So I shall write down latest cases dot head, and as you see, all of these, if you look at the date column over here, all of the dates are corresponding to 24th June 2021, and these are with respect to all of the different states. So if you look at Andaman and Nicobar Islands, so as of 24th June 2021, in Andaman and Nicobar Islands, there are 7,438 confirmed cases. Out of these 7,438 confirmed cases, 7,210 have been cured. So it seems like the number of people who've been cured, that percentage is extremely high when it comes to Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Similarly, the deaths are 127 when it comes to A&N Islands. Similarly, if we talk about Andhra Pradesh, so let me calculate this properly. So hundreds, 10,000, this is 18 lakhs. So seems like till 24th June 2021, there have been 18,62,000 cases in Andhra Pradesh, which is a huge number. And out of these 18 lakh cases, it would seem that 17,98,000 cases have been cured, or these number of people have been cured, and there have been 12,452 deaths, unfortunately. Similarly, if we talk about Bihar over here, so there have been 7,20,000 confirmed cases, out of which 7,08,000 cases, or 7,08,000 people have been successfully cured, and there have been 9,500 deaths, unfortunately. So this is how I can look at the latest cases. Now, what I'd want to do is I'd want to sort this data frame with respect to the maximum number of cases in a particular state, which would mean that whichever state has the maximum number of confirmed cases shall be at the top, and whichever state has the lowest number of confirmed cases shall be at the bottom. So for this, I shall write down latest cases dot sort values, and inside this I shall write by, and I'd want to sort this with respect to the confirmed column. And let me just run this over here, and let's see what is the result which I'll get. So seems like I get an error over here. Let me put these in double quotes, and let me run this again. So as you see, so here what I've done is I have the lowest number of confirmed cases at the top. So right now this is arranged in ascending order, but I'd actually want to arrange this in descending order. So let me just go back and I shall set. So I have an attribute called as ascending, and I shall set ascending is equal to false. Now, if I run this, you shall see that I have Maharashtra at the top. So as of 24th June 2021, there have been 59 lakh 97,587 cases in Maharashtra. And that's a huge number, isn't it? Almost 60 lakh confirmed cases in only the state of Maharashtra. So that's a huge number. And out of these 59 lakh confirmed cases, 57 lakh people have been cured, and there also have been 1 lakh 19,000 deaths. So the number of deaths is also above the six-figure mark when it comes to Maharashtra, and that is sort of disappointing for us as a country. So we need to and that is why the second wave had come up, and we need to properly maintain the social distancing protocols. So I hope also in this particular situation, all of you are maintaining proper social distancing protocols and maintaining and also making sure that if there are elders at your home, they are safe. So let me just go ahead and I shall see if there are any more questions. Ravindra Lakal is asking, are you covering EDA today? Yes, I shall cover EDA today. Harvey Spector is saying recorded. No, this is not recorded. This is a live session. So if you have any questions, Harvey, you can put them up in the chat and I shall take them up. And also, as I said, I want this to be quite interactive. If you have any questions, any doubts, you can just put them up in the chat. I shall take them up. So what I've done over here is I have sorted this entire data frame like this, and I just want to look at the top 5 states with maximum number of confirmed cases. So as of 24th June 2021, the top 5 states with maximum number of confirmed cases are Maharashtra, Kerala, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and Andhra Pradesh. Now, what I'd want to do is I'd want to represent this pictorially using bar graphs or bar plots. So I shall just go ahead and store this in a new object, and I shall call that new object as top 5 states. Again, let me just print out top 5 states, you guys, and this is what we get. Now, out of this, what I'd want to do is, as I said, I'd want to create a bar plot. And to create a bar plot, if I go ahead, I actually haven't imported Seaborn over here. So what I'd want to do is, there are visualization libraries in Python. So there is a visualization library called as matplotlib, and there is also a visualization library called as Seaborn. So I shall be importing both of these visualization libraries. So let me just write down from matplotlib import plot as plt, and I shall also write down import Seaborn as SNS. So now that I have imported these two libraries, what I'd want to do is, as I said, I'd want to create a bar plot. So I shall write down SNS.bar plot, and on the x-axis I need to map something, and also on the y-axis I need to map something. So onto the x-axis I shall map the state column, because I basically want to see the state-wise distribution of these confirmed cases. So onto the x-axis, I'm mapping the state column, and onto the y-axis, I am mapping this confirmed cases column. And both of these columns are basically coming from this object or this data set called as top 5 states. And also here I need to put these in double quotes again, else I'll get an error. So state confirmed, let me also put double quotes. And after this, let me just write down plt.show. And as you see, I've got this very beautiful bar plot over here, where we also very obviously, very clearly see that the maximum number of confirmed cases are in Maharashtra. And as you see, this is touching the 6-figure mark over here, which is basically the 60 lakh confirmed cases, almost 60 lakh confirmed cases. So that was of 24th June 2021. So I guess by today, this bar would definitely have been above that 60 figure mark. So what I'd want to do is let's say if I'd want to increase the size of it, let me use this new parameter called as plt dot figure, and inside this I have something called as fig size, and let me set the figure size to be equal to 15 comma, let me just put it to be equal to 10, and let me run this. Now this is a huge plot, isn't this? Let me actually reduce the size of it. Let me probably make it 15 comma 7, and let's see how does this look like. So guys, this is how our bar plot looks like over here, and this again is a very pretty plot. So the maximum number of confirmed cases, the top state with most number of confirmed cases is Maharashtra over here, then followed by Kerala, then followed by Karnataka, then we have Tamil Nadu, then we have Andhra Pradesh. Let me just go back to the chat and see if there are any questions. Swati Agarwal is asking, can the COVID India dataset file be shared so that we can do a hands-on and follow along? Swati, what I shall do is, once this live session is done, I shall add the link of this in the description box, and also I shall pin it in the comment section. Then you can get get this particular dataset. And in the meanwhile, if you'd want to search for it, you can just go to the site called as Kaggle. Open that site up, and over there you can just type in COVID-19 or coronavirus or COVID-19 India. I'm pretty sure you shall be able to get this particular data set over there. So I hope that helps you, Swati. So now that this is clear, what I'd want to do is I'd want to make a similar bar plot for also the top 5 states with minimum number of cases. So here, what I've done is I've set ascending is equal to false. So similarly, I have my latest cases object, and I shall use sort values. And here I shall set by confirmed. Let me put this in double quotes again. By confirmed, again, I shall set ascending. Now this time I shall actually set ascending is equal to true, and let me run this. So here I have the top 5 states. So basically I have all the states with the confirmed cases. Now since I want only the head of this, let me run this. So these are the top 5 states with the least number of cases. So we have Andaman and Nicobar Islands, where the number of cases as of 24th June are 7,438, followed by Lakshadweep, where the number of cases are 9,559. Then we have Dadra and Nagar Haveli, where the number of cases are 10,000, followed by Mizoram, where it's 18,000, followed by Sikkim, where it's 19,000 cases. Now, again, let me just go ahead and store this in a new object. Let me call it bottom 5 states. Now that I have saved this, let me also print out bottom 5 states for you guys, and I shall go ahead and create a bar plot for the same. So here I shall write SNS.bar plot, and on the x-axis I shall again be mapping the state column, and let me not forget to put these in double quotes. After this, onto the y-axis, I need to map the confirmed cases. Again, it seems that I keep forgetting to put these names of columns in double quotes. And then going ahead, when it comes to data, I will not put this in double quotes. So the name of this data set is bottom 5 states. And after this, I shall just write down plt.show, and this is what we get. Again, you see that this text on the x-axis, it's a bit jumbled up. So let me just increase the size of this plot. So here I shall again write plt.figure, and I'll write figure size. Let me set the figure size to be equal to 15,6. Let me see if that works for you guys. Right. So this is the states with the least number of cases. Andaman and Nicobar at the first position over here with close to 7,500 cases. Then we have Sikkim over here with close to 20,000 cases. So interesting plot again. Now that we have done this, what I'd want to do is I'd want to also do a state-wise analysis. So let me just print out the original data frame for you guys, which would be COVID. I shall actually print out COVID.head. Let me write down COVID.head over here, and this is what we get. So we have the date, state, cured, deaths, and confirmed. Now, out of this data frame, what I'd want to do is I'd want to analyze some individual states. So let me also see all of the states over here which are present. So I shall write COVID. Inside this, I shall take the name of the column with the state, and this is, since this is a categorical column, I have a method called as value count. So let me just write down value count and print out over here. Now these values which you see, so can you tell me, can someone in the chat tell me what are these values exactly? Are these the cases? Are these the confirmed cases, or are these something else? What exactly are these? What exactly does this value counts method do? Ravindra Lakal is asking, how can we see the number if we hover over a particular bar? So, Ravindra, to answer your question, that is unfortunately not possible with just the basic graphing or basic plotting which we are doing. So that would probably involve, we will need to go into the depths of Seaborn and Matplotlib, and we shall cover that in some other session. So right now, if we hover this is not possible, as directly Seaborn or Matplotlib is not an interactive plotting library. You only get static images. You shall not get interactive images over here. Satyam Kumar is asking, can you show this project in your resume? Absolutely. So if you do this by yourself, probably tweak it a bit, add new things, and you can definitely add it in your resume. Swati Agarwal is saying number of rows for a state, number of occurrences for each. Yes. So Swati and Ankit, you are absolutely right. So Kerala is basically present 512 times in this data frame. Similarly, Delhi is present 480 times in this data frame. And if I come to the bottom over here, there is only one record for Daman and Diu, which would mean that there has been only one instance taken in this data set about the confirmed cases or probably any other cases in this particular state. So similarly, it seems like probably we'll have two over here when it comes to Bihar. And also we have unassigned Telangana, we have Lakshadweep, Sikkim, and so on, right? So seems that the most number of recordings which are there, those are present for the Kerala state. Now, what I'd want to do is, let me start off with, let's say I'd want to take something related to, let's start off by analyzing the state of Delhi. So what I shall do is, from my latest, actually not the latest cases, I shall take this COVID data frame. So from this COVID data frame, I'd want to select only those records where the state is equal to Delhi. And I shall again store this in a new object, and I shall call that object as Delhi. And let me print out the head of this for you folks, Delhi.head. And as you see, this is what I get. So it would seem that the first instance or the first confirmed case in Delhi was recorded on 2nd of March 2020. So first confirmed case in Delhi was found on 2nd March 2020. Similarly, let me use the tail method over here, Delhi.tail. And this is the latest date, which is 24th June 2021. And as of 24th June 2021, I have 14 lakh cases. So as you see, in this span of probably 1 year, 3 months, there have been 14 lakh confirmed cases across Delhi, and that is a huge number, my friends. Now, what I'd want to do is I'd also want to analyze how these confirmed cases have increased across all of this time period. So for this, I can make a line plot. So let me just go ahead and make this line plot. I shall write down SNS dot line plot, and on the x-axis I shall be mapping the date column, and on the y-axis I shall be mapping. I need to map. What do I need to map? I need to map the confirmed cases column, and both of these columns are coming from this object called as Delhi. Let me just go ahead and show this out for you guys. Now, let's wait for this to come up over here, and this is what we get. So here, since we have all of these instances of dates, that is why this is not really clear over here. And even if I increase the plot size, that probably wouldn't be so clear. So what I shall do over here is, let me again put in plt dot figure, and I shall write down plt. I do not need to write PLT. I shall just write figure size, and let me put in the figure size as 10, 5, and let me run this. And this is what we get over here. So this is the trajectory of how the cases have been increasing from 2nd of March 2020 till 24th of June 2021. Again, this is not clear because you probably have how many instances over here? You have 480 dates written side by side, and that is why it is not clear. So after this, what I would want to do is, I would probably take another state and also plot that along with this. So similarly, let me probably take in another state, which would be, let's say, Kerala. So here, what I shall do is I shall write down COVID, and here I shall give in the name of the column, which is state, and the state will be Goa, and I shall go ahead and store this again in a new object and call it as Goa. Here, let me just write down Goa.head, and let's see what do we get. So here, the first case in Goa was found on 26th March 2020. Actually, we had 3 confirmed cases as of 26th March 2020. Similarly, let me just write down Goa.tail over here. So here, when I write down Goa.tail, I have, so as of 24th June 2021, I have 1,65,000 cases. So let me just go ahead and also add this into the same plot. So I shall select this entire thing and I shall paste over here. Now after this, I shall make another line plot, and now again on the x-axis, I would want the date column. On the y-axis, I would want the confirmed column, and the data is actually coming from this object called as Goa. And let me run this and show you guys how the result looks like. So here, as you see, if you compare these two graphs, the number of cases in Delhi have been increasing exponentially, right? And in Goa, it's sort of like it's sort of like a linear line, and it's not increasing so much when you compare it to the increase in Delhi. So this is an interesting analysis which we have found out over here. And now let me also take up another state. So probably I will take in Maharashtra over here. So let me just check how it is written. Let me just copy this entire thing from over here, and I shall write down COVID. Again, I shall write down COVID. Here the state has to be equal to Maharashtra, and I shall go ahead and store this in a new object and also call that object as Maha. Now, let me copy this entire thing from over here. Let me paste it over here, and let me add in a new line plot again. So here onto the x-axis, I shall add a date. Onto the y-axis, again, I shall add the confirmed cases. And this time the data is coming from this object called as Maha. Let me just show this out for you guys and let's see how the result looks like. So here, the third one which you see, this is of Maharashtra. So this is Goa, this is Delhi, this is Maharashtra, and as you clearly see, the growth in the number of cases is, I mean, so there is absolutely no comparison over here, isn't it? So there's a huge difference between these three. And if I would want to add a legend over here, let me just write down plt dot legend, and here I shall just write. So the first state is Delhi, then I have Goa, then I have Maharashtra. Let me write down the spelling properly over here. And let's just run this again and let's wait for the result. And as you see, I have also added a legend. So in this legend, we clearly see that this blue color line is for the state of Delhi. This green color line is for the state of Maharashtra, and this orange color line is for the state of Goa. So a very interesting graph where we can see the trajectory of how the cases have been increasing across all of these different states. So hope this is clear for all of you guys as well. So again, if you guys have been able to follow this, just give me a confirmation in the chat window. You can just write down yes if you have been able to follow this properly. So after this, what I would want to do is I shall also do a similar sort of analysis in our studio as well. So let me just go back and what I shall do is, instead of sharing the Jupyter notebook, I shall actually share our studio. Just give me a second for that. So share screen. I would want to share entire screen here. And what I've done over here is I've opened up our studio. Also give me a confirmation if you can see our studio onto my screen. Right. So seems like we have been able to open up our studio as well. So for all of the folks who are new to the R language or new to our studio, this is how our studio looks like. And just give me, and I shall start off by giving you guys a brief of this. So this, what you see is known as the script window. This is where you can write all of your script or R script. This is known as the console window, and this is where you can execute all of your R commands. So let me just give you guys an example. Let me write 10 plus 5. As you see, this has been executed over here. Then we've got this environment pane where you have, you probably can see all of the history of the commands which you've done. If you want to import a data set, that is something which you can do. And also you have multiple options over here. And this, again, you have multiple options. So here you have the packages tab. So let's say if you'd want to install a particular library, you just click on install. So let's say there is a library called as deployer. And when I click on install, the package will be installed. Similarly, let's say if I want to install this package called as ggplot2, I shall select this. When I click on install, again, that would be installed over here. Then we have plots. So whatever plots we are making all of those would be visible over here. So on that note, what I want to do is, again, we'll do a similar sort of analysis in R as well. So this is just to show you guys that R and Python, both of them are equally used when it comes to data science. And we are going to do a similar analysis with the R language. So let me just go ahead and read the CSV file. So when it came to Python, the command was read underscore CSV. When it comes to R, the command is read.csv. And here, let me just give in the path. So this is stored in my downloads folder, and the name of the file is COVID-19 india.csv, and let me just go ahead and store this in an object called as COVID final. So now that I've stored this, if I would want to show this data frame to you guys, I have this method called as view, and inside this I shall just pass in this data frame. So I shall write down COVID final. And this is the same data frame which we had seen in Jupyter Notebook as well. So we've got date, time, state, confirmed national, confirmed foreign national, cured, deaths, and confirmed. Now, again, out of all of these different columns over here, what I'd want to do is I'd want to select only a particular set of columns. So for that purpose, I would need to use a library called as deployer. So here, let me write down library of deployer. And deployer is a library which is mostly used for data wrangling and data manipulation. And inside this deployer library, I'll have a method called as select. And with the help of that select method, I can select only some individual columns from this entire data frame. So I shall write down COVID final, which is the name of this data frame. Now this, what I've given over here is known as the pipe operator. So with the help of the pipe operator, I can connect one object with different objects or one object with another function. So COVID final, and after this, what I'd want to do is I would want to give the select method. Just give me a second, guys. I am just opening the same stream in my phone as well so that I can look at the comments as well. Just give me a second. So Swati is asking, which language would you prefer for data analytics, Python or R? I have a background in Python. Should I still learn R for data science? Well, the answer is pretty simple. So in the industry, both of these languages are used. And also, since you know Python, I would also suggest you to learn R as well, as it is not really that difficult. Both of, I mean, the script or the syntax of both of these languages is quite similar. And if you already know Python, then I can assure you that you can learn R probably in a span of 2 to 3 weeks. So at max, it needs to take you 3 weeks to learn the basic syntax of R, and you can start, doing all of these basic data science applications with R. Because when it comes to the industry, both of these languages are equally used, and it would be better if you know two languages. I mean, so two is always better than one. So I'd suggest if you know this, then it's obviously better. So COVID-19 select, and over here, I just need to give in all of the columns which I'd want to select. So I'd want the date column. I'd want the state union territory column. So let me just write that down properly. After this, I would need the cured column over here. Then I would need the deaths column. After that, I would need the confirmed column. So now that I have selected all of these columns, let me just go ahead and store it back to COVID final. And as you see from the original data frame, I've been able to select only these particular columns. Again, what I'd want to do is from all of these columns, I'd want to rename them. Basically, I'd want to convert them to lowercase. So again, for this, I have a method called as rename. So here, let me write down COVID final. I shall give in the pipe operator, and I have the rename method. And this is also very simple. So here, what I'd want to do is, first I need to give in the name to which I'd want to change it, which is the new name, and I need to give an equal to. After that, I need to give in the old name. So for this date column, the original name is date with D capital. So I'd want to change that to date with D small. So I shall just write down date is equal to date. Similarly, I've got state dot union territory. I just want to change that to state. So I shall just write down state is equal to, then I shall give in the original name of the column, which is state dot union territory. Similarly, I've got cured, where C is capital. I do want to convert that to small case. So cured is equal to cured. Then I've got the deaths column. Again, D, I will make it small. Then I shall select deaths from over here. And then finally, I've got this confirmed column where, again, I need to make C to be small. I shall write confirmed, and I shall give in the original column name over here. Let me just go ahead and store it back into COVID final. Can't rename columns that don't exist. So here, what I've done is I have written this to be small as well. Let me make it capital. Now let me run this, and as you see, the changes have been effected. So date, initially D was capital, that has been changed to small. This was state.union territory, which has been changed to state. And the rest of the three columns also, they've been converted from title case to small case. Now, after this, similarly, what I'd want to do is I'd want to extract all of the records where the date is equal to 24th June 2021. Now, before that, let me also show you the head method and the tail method in RStudio as well. So the head method, here you shall just write down head and you shall give in the name of the object. So the name of the object is COVID final over here. And this is how the result looks like. So when it came to Python, by default, when you use the head method, you got the first 5 records. And when it comes to R, when you use the head method, by default, you shall get the first 6 records. Now, let's say if I don't want the first 6 records, if I actually want the first 10 records, here I shall just put in a comma, I shall write down 10, I'll hit enter, and as you see, I have the first 10 records from this. Similarly, let's say if I want only the first 3 records, let me just change this to 3. I'll hit enter, and as you see, I have only the first 3 records from this. So this is how the head method works. Now, let me also use the tail method. Inside this, I shall pass in COVID final. When I run this is the result which I get. Also, by default, I have the last 6 records from this data frame. So this is also clear. After this, what I want to do is, since the last date, let me run this again. So let me show you the date over here. As you see, the last date is this, or the latest date is this, which is 24th of June 2021. Let me select this, and what I'd want to do from this entire data frame is I'd want to extract only those records where the date is equal to 24 June 2021. So for that purpose, let me again write down COVID final. Then I shall give in the pipe operator. After the pipe operator, I would want to give in the filter function. Again, this filter function is part of the deployer library. So if you haven't loaded the deployer library, you will not be able to work with this filter function. And with the help of the filter function, I'll be able to probably extract records from my original data frame on the basis of a condition. So here, let me just give in the condition filter where date is equal to this. And again, I shall go ahead and store this in a new object. I shall store this in something called as latest cases. Let me show you guys this object of latest cases. And as you see, I've got 36 entries, which would basically mean that I've got different combination of all of the states and union territories over here. And the date, if you look at this particular column, you would see that this is 24 June 2021. So across all the rows, you shall see that this is constant, and the constant value is equal to 24 June 2021. So hope this is clear as well. Now, now that we have this, what again I'd want to do is I'd probably want to extract only the top 5 records with the maximum number of cases. So for this, I shall write down latest cases. And here, when it came to Python, we had something called as sort values. When it comes to R, we have something called as the arrange method. So again, arrange method is part of deployer. So here I shall write down latest cases. I shall write down arrange, and I want to arrange this in descending order. So I shall write down DESC, and I want to arrange this with respect to the confirmed column. So when I hit enter, this is what I get. So let me actually store this back into latest cases descending. So view of latest cases descending, and this is what I shall have over here. And as you see, the first record which you see is Maharashtra, and the maximum number of confirmed cases, this is what I have over here. Again, from this entire data frame, let's say if I want only the top 5 records, what I can do is I shall take in latest cases descending, and here I shall just put in 0, 5, which would basically mean that I'm selecting all of the columns, but only the first 5 records from this data frame. I shall hit enter. Now this is a bit chaotic, so let me just go ahead and store this in a new object, call it as top 5 max cases, and I shall show you how does top 5 max cases look like. So these are the top 5 states with the maximum number of confirmed cases. So this again is interesting, isn't it? So again, let me just go ahead and make a bar plot for this. So when it comes to R, we have this plotting library called as ggplot2. So let me just go ahead and load that. So here I shall write down library of ggplot2. Now after this, I shall write data is equal to, so this data is basically the data frame. So I'd want to make a plot for this data frame, which is top 5 maximum cases. Then I shall use aesthetic, where I'd have to map something onto the x-axis and I'd have to map something onto the y-axis. So onto the x-axis, I am obviously mapping the state column. Onto the y-axis, I am mapping the confirmed column. Then I'd have to make a plot, isn't it? So to make a plot, I'd have to choose a geometry. So in ggplot, you have different geometries. So if you want to make a area plot, you have geom area. If you want to make a bar plot, you have geom bar. Similarly, if you want to make a box plot, you have geom box plot. And since I don't want to make a bar plot, I shall select the geom bar over here. And inside this, I shall just write down stat is equal to identity. Now, when I run this, this is what I get. So you would see that this is actually arranged in alphabetical order and not really in the order of the sizes of these bars. And also, I do not really have any color by default. So let me just go ahead and add in color for all of these different bars. So here I have the same command. Now I'll go inside this aesthetic function, and here let me just put in a comma. I shall use this attribute called as fill, and inside this I shall actually I want all of the colors of these bars to be determined by this state column. So here I am mapping the state column onto the fill aesthetic. Now when I hit enter, you shall see that I have different colors for all of these. Let me actually zoom this so that this is even more properly visible to you guys. Right, so I have all of these different colors over here. Let me just close this over. And now what I'd want to do is I'd want to arrange this in probably ascending or descending order. So here, what I shall do is I have a method called as reorder. So I shall use reorder, and in reorder I shall pass state. Let me remove this from over here, and also let me give in confirmed. And now when I run this, I shall get something like this. So this over here is arranged in ascending order. If I want this in descending order, what I can do is I have confirmed over here. Let me just run this again. So here I shall put in a minus symbol so that this is arranged in descending order. And this is the final result which we get. So we have properly arranged these bars in descending order, where we have Maharashtra at the first position. So the most number of cases have been found in Maharashtra, then Kerala, then Karnataka, then Tamil Nadu, and then Andhra Pradesh. So hopefully this is clear to all of you folks. So guys, what we've done over here is we've done proper data analysis, exploratory data analysis with respect to Python as well as R, and hopefully this is helpful to you folks. Just let me know in the chat window if this is helpful to you guys. Let me stop sharing my screen over here. Let me stop this. So folks, if you have any more questions, just put them up in the chat. I'll probably take 1 or 2 questions, and I can just end this over here. So Jyotsna is asking, does Scholar have any course for data science? So as of now, we do not have any course for data science. But then again, if you want us to keep doing these sessions on data science or AI or probably any other technology, we shall gladly do it. So our aim over here is to provide free quality education to all of you folks on YouTube. And if you like this, you can actually like this video and also share this video with all of your peers and your friends. And also I have a request to make to you guys. So if you haven't yet subscribed to our channel, I'd request you guys to please subscribe to this channel as well. So thank you very much, folks, and we shall meet up in the next session.